To get started, I will be using around 3/4 of an 11 to 12 ounce bag of sweet potato starch noodles, and these are the wide. Now these aren't the extra large or extra wide that you see, but these were the widest that I could find. And I want to show you that I will be cooking these less than the instructional cook time. It says to place them in boiling water for around 13 minutes. I'm actually only going to cook them for around 9 to 10 because the rest of the way I want them to simmer in the sauce that I will be making for these spicy noodles. By the way, shout out to my subscribers or viewers that have requested this. I've had several requests for a recipe in making these noodles over the last several months, so I decided to use my family as guinea pigs to try this. Okay, so I already have a pot of boiling water boiling on the stove, so I'm going to add probably somewhere between 8 to 9 ounces of these noodles. I didn't cook the full bag, but it was close. I kind of eyeballed what I thought would serve 4 people because I have family over to try this. I'm also going to be using Korean rice cakes, and I will probably be using just half of this package. And I also got some assorted fish balls that I purchased from H Mart this weekend, and I wanted to show you. It's kind of neat. It's just a big frozen cooler filled with different bins of assorted fish balls. I got the ones that are filled with pork, some are filled with beef. I also got one that was mixed with like scallions, just different ones that I wanted to add, and this is actually optional. So if you don't have fish balls, you can still make this dish. I'm just adding some optional ingredients to just make this a heartier meal. Okay, so my noodles have been boiling for around 9 minutes. I am going to drain and rinse the noodles in cold water until they are cooled off. Basically, you want to do this so they do not cook any further. I still want a bite and chewiness to them. I don't want them to get too soggy and bloated. Now I'm going to add a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. I'm not measuring it. I just want to make sure I coat the noodles in sesame oil, not only to add flavor, but this helps them separate easily when I'm ready to use them. By the way, I'd like to mention that all the ingredients and measurements will be located in the description below this video. I will also add links to other recipe videos that I think you might like. Okay, so my noodles are coated well in the sesame oil, so now I'm going to move on to the sauce. Here I have around 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. I'm also going to be adding 2 to 3 heaping tablespoons of gochujang. It's more like 2.5 tablespoons. Basically, this sauce is going to be to your taste. I'm just giving you a place to start, I guess, what I like to do. And this is pretty much the sauce I use for my tteokbokki when I make that, which is the spicy Korean rice cakes. So 2 to 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 to 3 tablespoons of gochujang, depending how salty and spicy you want it. I'm also going to be adding a fine red pepper powder. If you have gochugaru, which is the chili pepper flakes, you can use that too. I'm going to be using a teaspoon of this red pepper powder because it does get spicy the more you use it, so a teaspoon goes a long way. I'm also going to be adding 1 to 2 cloves of minced fresh garlic. Again, you can change the ratios to this sauce because you can change it to suit your needs. Now I'm going to be adding around 2 heaping overfilled tablespoons of honey. Again, this is not an exact measurement. This sauce is very forgiving. Just kind of play with it and find the taste that you like. And now I'm going to add a 1/2 cup or 4 ounces of water, and I'm just going to mix this until everything is combined well, and that is my sauce. Now, one thing I like about this recipe is that you can add any ingredient you want to make it heartier. For example, today I'm going to be serving the noodles alongside some turkey sausage. I'm just going to pop these in the oven and roast them until they're done. And what I've done is sort of sliced into them with my kitchen shears, sort of a Hasselback kind of situation going on, and it makes it easier to pull apart with the chopsticks once they're done. So I'm going to be serving this as well alongside the noodles. And I will also be adding boiled egg to these noodles. Again, this is just an optional ingredient to make it more of a meal. But if you want to just have the noodles with the sauce, it's just as good. Okay, so now I'm going to start making everything. It's time to put everything together. So here I have a nonstick skillet. I set it to the temperature of 300 degrees Fahrenheit. If you're using a pan on the stove, use a medium heat. Now I'm just going to give this sauce a little bit of a head start because I do want to warm through the red pepper powder and the fresh garlic that we added. I just want to make sure that it sort of starts cooking and permeating through the sauce. So I'm going to let this simmer just for a minute or so. I'm going to stir it around just to give it a head start. Okay, so now I'm going to add 12 ounces or a cup and a half of water. I'm adding this water because I still want to cook the rice cakes and the fish balls, allow them to simmer, so the extra water will help get that started before I add the rest of the ingredients. Okay, so now that that's combined, I'm going to add the rice cakes and the fish balls. And I actually thawed the assorted fish balls, so they're not completely frozen solid, but they still need to cook through. And I actually think they are pre-cooked, but again, I just want to make sure everything has a chance to get hot and cooked. So rice cakes and assorted fish balls are going to simmer for around 5 minutes. I'm going to let those simmer with a lid for 5 minutes. And once I close this, I realized I also want to add some fresh sliced onion. Again, another optional ingredient. If you don't like onion, don't add it, but I like fresh onion in this. Okay, so it has been 5 minutes. I'm going to give this a quick stir. Everything seems to be cooking nicely. By the way, if you want to know what kind of skillet this is, this electric skillet, I'll leave the link below so you can check it out. Okay, so now I am ready to add my noodles. And you see how easily they sort of come apart as soon as I move them? That's because we use sesame oil, so I do suggest you add the sesame oil after you cook them. Okay, so now that my noodles are combined, it's time for the cheese. The cheese that I am using today is fresh mozzarella cheese. And you could definitely use the melty cheese of your choice, but you know what? If you get a chance, use some fresh mozzarella cheese. It is a delicious melty cheese that goes well with this. So I'm going to be using around 4 to 5 ounces of this. Again, the ratios are up to you. If you want to use 8 ounces of cheese because you just love cheese, go for it. But I think a good ratio to start with is 4 to 5 ounces. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the boiled eggs that I made earlier. I made 3 of them. Now I'm just going to cover and simmer everything until the cheese is melted. Okay, so it took basically around 3 to 5 minutes on a low simmer to get the cheese to melt, and it smells fantastic. Everybody's hungry as usual, but I do want to try to attempt a cheese pull just to look at how deliciously melty this cheese is. Wow. So I definitely hope you guys give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.